Hi, I'm Katie Wilson and welcome to AnewZ. Here are the headlines. Hamas says it responded positively to the proposed Gaza ceasefire. Trump says Iran's nuclear infrastructure has been completely destroyed. Texas flooding kills 24 people while 20 children remain missing. Hamas has responded positively to a US-mediated ceasefire proposal and expressed its readiness to begin negotiations. Earlier, US President Donald Trump announced that Israel had agreed to the necessary terms for a 60-day ceasefire, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has yet to comment on the statement.
Hamas has responded positively to a US-backed ceasefire proposal and expressed readiness to begin negotiations. The agreement includes the release of hostages and aims to end the ongoing conflict. US President Donald Trump, who initiated the plan, said he expects a response from both sides soon. Hamas confirmed it has completed consultations with other Palestinian factions regarding the latest ceasefire offer. However, concerns remain about the delivery of humanitarian aid, the opening of the Egypt border crossing, and the withdrawal of Israeli troops, with no clear timetable yet established.
We have to get it over with. We have to do something about Gaza. We've been doing it. You know, we're sending a lot of aid, a lot of money and a lot of aid. Otherwise, you have people in big, big trouble. But, yeah, I think it's been very positive, a good response. Yes, please.
US President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Israel has agreed to the necessary terms for a 60-day ceasefire. He added that efforts to resolve the conflict through diplomatic means will continue during this period.
There could be a Gaza deal next week. Yeah.
How optimistic are you?
I'm very optimistic, but, you know, look, it changes from day to day. It's been changing for years. It changed. As I came in, I inherited a very bad situation in many ways. And whether it's 25 million people coming in from prisons, jails, from mental institutions, from gangs. You know, it's well, that or Gaza. You could say Gaza. You could say I inherited Iran. We did something about it. We've gotten a lot of hostages out, as you know, from Gaza, a lot. But unfortunately, you know, we came into that, we inherited that situation.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has yet to respond to President Trump's statement. The two sides still hold very different positions. Netanyahu insists that Hamas must be fully disarmed. However, Hamas, believed to be holding around 20 hostages, has refused to discuss this issue. Netanyahu is expected to meet President Trump in Washington on July 7th.
The Israeli military says it now holds operational control over 65% of the Gaza Strip, following renewed ground operations since March. According to the Israel Defense Forces, the Air Force has targeted more than 7,500 sites linked to militant groups, including tunnels, rocket launchers and weapons depot. Over the past week, more than 100 militants, including several Hamas commanders, were reportedly killed. Israeli forces say they're continuing operations aimed at protecting civilians and border communities. UN agencies have raised alarm over continuing violence at food distribution points in Gaza, where dozens of Palestinians have been killed or injured whilst trying to access aid. Hospitals in Gaza are overwhelmed with trauma cases, including children shot while seeking food. Medical evacuations remain severely limited despite urgent needs. The UN called for open aid and medical access, but Gaza remains closed to monitors and journalists, hindering verification. The World Health Organization reported many casualties at non-UN food sites amid severe shortages from a prolonged blockade.
Life is almost like is worth one bag of flour or something like that. That's the insane thing what is happening, and it's in a majority of the casualties directly reported to us by the health workers, but also by the families, was all related to this so-called safe non-UN food distribution site. Gaza needs to be flooded by food. So he stopped that scramble from food, from desperate people, for maybe organized people who want to get their hand on the food, etc. The markets need to be flooded, and we saw that also when there was the ceasefire. That very quickly, any looting around everywhere or any violence, it stopped. It subsided.
President Trump has commented on the current state of Iran's nuclear program, stating that Tehran has neither agreed to international inspections nor halted its uranium enrichment activities. According to Trump, Iran's nuclear infrastructure has been completely destroyed, and he believes the country's progress in this field has been permanently set back. The US leader also noted that Iranian officials had expressed a desire to meet with him. However, he warned that without any agreement on enrichment or inspections, such a meeting was unlikely to yield meaningful results. Amid rising geopolitical tensions and escalating climate risks, the European Union is taking steps to build emergency stockpiles of critical minerals and vital infrastructure supplies as part of a broader effort to strengthen crisis preparedness.
The European Union plans to expand emergency stockpiles of critical minerals and essential infrastructure equipment. A draft strategy seen by the Financial Times cites growing geopolitical tensions, climate risks and cyber threats as key drivers. The European Commission warned of growing risks driven by conflict, environmental harm and threats to vital infrastructure such as underwater cables. To boost resilience, the strategy calls on member states to coordinate backup supplies of food, medicine and nuclear fuel. At the EU level, stockpiles of rare earths, permanent magnets and cable repair modules will also be strengthened to ensure rapid recovery from disruptions. The draft, expected to be published next week, follows the EU's Preparedness Union strategy unveiled in March, which urges citizens to store at least 72 hours' worth of essentials and outlines measures to counter natural disasters, cyber attacks and possible military aggression. German defence officials and other EU leaders have recently warned of heightened threats from state-sponsored actors and cyber criminals. The document also highlights the EU's vulnerability to climate change, noting that the region is warming twice as fast as the global average.
The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has stated that Beijing cannot accept Russian defeat in Ukraine. He made the comments in an exchange with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas. To discuss the implications of this, we are joined by Dr. Ahmet Faruk Ishik, researcher at China Med Project. Thank you for being with us. Now, does this statement contradict Beijing's long-stated neutrality?
I think Beijing in a really hard position between Russia and Ukraine war. The situation is that Beijing has very close ties with Russia, at the same time have very close ties with the EU market. So it's really put Beijing in a hard position. Therefore, Beijing's management this situation already, I think, is already performed very well. And China's stance, I think, do not imply support for Russia's invasion in Ukraine. It's an action that reflects a desire to protect domestic stability and global trade flows, not military alignment. So I think Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman noted about this issue. He said that if China truly supports Russia's war effort, it will have already ended. So when we look back to geopolitical perspective, Russia-Ukraine war is absorbing significant U.S. Financial resources. So from Beijing's view, it may serve to distract Washington's and ease the pressure on China.
Does the statement give us any indication about Beijing's goals diplomatically?
This year is quite important. When we look at the China-EU relations, China aims to strain ties with the European. In 2024, China-US trade reached $780 billion US dollar. It's showing that strong mutual economic interest, almost 30% of the global trade. 2025, it marks the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between two sides. So Beijing seeks to prevent the EU from joining US-led anti-China trade coalition. China prefers to maintain the current trade and geopolitical status quo, avoiding the escalation. So when we look at that, China is openly communicating its position to EU. We can say that this includes concern that Russia's defeat could shift U.S. Strategic pressure entirely onto China by engaging the EU diplomatically. So China hopes that keep the European Union neutral.
All very interesting, isn't it? Thank you for your insights and for joining us on the programme.
Thank you for having me.
As Europe grapples with an intense heat wave, soaring temperatures nearing 40 degrees Celsius are straining construction efforts and exposing the Danube River to unusually low water levels. As the heat wave rages on, the shipping industry in Hungary is forced to deal with losses and operational challenges.
Much of Europe continues to face a heat wave, with temperatures in some areas nearing 40 degrees Celsius. In Bulgaria, construction crews pushed ahead of critical infrastructure work despite the heat, as temperatures peaked at 39 degrees. The team is repairing a major bridge over the Danube River that connects Bulgaria and Romania, and say the extreme conditions present a serious challenge.
The third phase of major repairs to the road section of the Danube Bridge near the city of AnewZ is behind us. In short, the repair includes the replacement of the road panels on the roadway for road vehicles, the replacement of the asphalt pavement, the sidewalk blocks and the bridge equipment. The extreme heat is a real challenge for us because we have to work outdoors. The measures we take to protect our workers are primarily providing sufficient amounts of drinking water and water for cooling, providing air-conditioned spaces, more frequent rest intervals during the work process.
Meanwhile, unusually low levels on the Danube River are disrupting shipping, agriculture and local ecosystems. The Danube, Europe's second longest river, serves as a vital transport corridor across the continent. Officials say cargo ships have been forced to leave behind over half of their loads and are operating at just 30 to 40% capacity, a situation that could push shipping costs up by as much as 100%. According to the EU's Copernicus agency, Europe is warming at twice the global average, making it the fastest warming continent. The impact of heat waves on cargo transport and construction illustrates the close connection between climate change and the economy.
Flash floods have devastated parts of Texas, causing widespread destruction and claiming at least 24 lives. Among those still unaccounted for are numerous campers caught in the rising waters along the Guadalupe River.
Months' worth of rain fell in just hours across Texas Hill Country on Friday, triggering catastrophic flash floods that left at least 24 people dead and dozens still missing. The sudden downpour sent rivers surging through communities, washing away homes, camps and vehicles. The Guadalupe River in Kerr County rose rapidly overnight after more than 25 centimeters of rain inundated the region. Among the missing are over 20 girls attending Camp Mystic, a Christian summer camp along the river in the town of Hunt. Emergency teams launched a massive rescue effort as floodwaters engulfed the area. The Texas Department of Public Safety deployed over 100 troopers, high water vehicles, divers, and 7 helicopters with hoist capabilities. The U.S. National Weather Service issued a flash flood emergency for Kerr County after storms dumped a heavy amount of rain on the region northwest of San Antonio.
Afghanistan's Deputy Prime Minister held a series of meetings on the sidelines of the Eco Summit in Azerbaijan, focusing on economic cooperation with neighbouring countries, including Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more.
In his meeting with Turkmenistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Rashid Miridov, Mullah Brother discussed key bilateral issues and called the recent elevation of diplomatic ties with an ambassador now in Ashgabat and a consul general in Mary a major step forward. He also highlighted the importance of the Tapi gas pipeline project, calling it a critical joint initiative that can enhance regional economic integration. To boost commercial ties, Brother proposed opening chambers of commerce and bank branches in both capitals and easing visa processes for Afghan traders. In response, Miridov reaffirmed Turkmenistan's commitment to strong political, economic and friendly ties with Afghanistan. In a separate meeting also held on the sideline of the ECO summit, Mullah Brother met with Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev. The talks focused on enhancing political and economic cooperation between Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. The discussions included railway connectivity, transit routes, trade facilitation, and electricity supply. Brother thanked Uzbekistan for its practical and supportive approach toward Afghanistan on the international stage and urged for further collaboration in exporting Afghan goods to Central Asia and Russia. These back-to-back meetings mark a push by the Afghan leadership to strengthen regional economic integration as the country seeks deeper ties with its neighbors amidst ongoing international challenges. Tamim Bahis reporting for AnewZ in Kabul, Afghanistan.
In our last episode of Inside Politics, Anastasia Lavrina discussed the Economic Cooperation Organisation Summit, which is held in Hankendi, with Faisal Shah, retired Rear Admiral from Islamabad. Faisal shared his opinion on the importance of the event for the region and why Azerbaijan's geography has a crucial role for the international event.
The geography of this region is so important. It connects whole world. You see, you connect Europe, you connect West Asia, you connect Afghanistan, China, then South Asia, and then through the sea you can connect to whole world. So immense potential lies here, and in all domains, not only in economic domain, but also in politics, in diplomacy. In every domain, immense potential lies here. Now, this is up to the regional countries, the members of ECO, to realize this potential and to actualize this potential into very tangible benefits, not only for themselves, but for the region and beyond region. And I agree with you that ECO countries can have this balance with the major powers or the extra-regional powers that are interested in our region, and we can bring them all to the point of economic collaboration with this region. But before that, all the countries, ECO member countries, have to have good economic collaboration among themselves, and that requires a lot of infrastructure, a lot of development, a lot of work on our part that we must actually embark on right now.
Armenia's Prosecutor General has formally requested parliamentary approval to initiate criminal proceedings against 2 opposition members of parliament. The motions were presented to MPs on Friday. The case involves 2 opposition MPs, former Defence Minister Seyran Ohanyan and former Environment Minister Artsvik Minasyan. Ohanyan is accused of illegally taking land and building a house whilst he was Defence Minister. He faces charges of abuse of power and money laundering. Meanwhile, Minasyan is accused of helping Ohanyan get the land illegally and misusing his official powers. The EU Council of Foreign Ministers is set to revisit the issue of Georgia on the 15th of July. According to the agenda published on the European Council's official website, ministers will exchange views on the situation in Georgia. The matter was also discussed at the June meeting, although no definitive decisions were reached. Kaja Kallas, the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, noted that the discussions revolved around the possibility of imposing sanctions, but no consensus was achieved. Kallas confirmed that the European Council will return to the topic of Georgia in July. Uzbekistan is stepping up its efforts to boost trade logistics by launching its own ferries in the Caspian Sea. The move, announced by the Transport Minister, is aimed at reducing cargo delays and strengthening regional connectivity.
Uzbekistan will operate its own ferries in the Caspian Sea to ease bottlenecks and accelerate foreign trade shipments. Transport Minister Ilhom Makamov announced the decision, noting that cargo ships can currently be delayed for up to 40 days. Uzbek and Turkish companies will jointly manage the new ferry services. Makamov emphasised the importance of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's recent visit to Azerbaijan, which led to extended tariff discounts of up to 70% on container rail transport via Azerbaijan, now valid until the end of 2026. He also highlighted the strategic role of the Middle Corridor, which runs through Azerbaijan, as a vital route for Uzbek exports and imports. Further cooperation between Baku and Tashkent includes plans for joint logistics companies, port infrastructure development and ferry production, with a proposed $150 million investment. This aligns with broader regional efforts, including the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan railway project, set to significantly increase transit volumes and strengthen connectivity across Central Asia and the Caspian region. In August 2023, President Ilham Aliyev proposed maritime cooperation with Uzbekistan, including joint activity in the Black Sea. A month later, plans were reported for joint ferry production between the two countries, with a projected cost of $150 million. Back in July, Uzbekistan also announced plans to build and lease maritime terminals and warehouses in Georgian ports.
China has launched a new freight train linking Beijing with Europe via Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. To help us unpack what this could mean for the region, we are joined by independent China strategist Andrew Leung. Thank you for being with us. Now, Andrew, what is the significance of this latest train line?
I think it reflects several major dimensions in this world, which has been upended. Historically, the American-led liberal world order has been torn asunder. And we could see that the Trump administration is lumping tariffs left, right, and center, not only on its arch enemy, which is China, but on its traditional allies, Western allies, disrupting global supply value chains, and throwing the rule-based order out of the window. So in this situation, the countries affected need to put their heads together to seek out ways how to rebalance the world economy and to seek out avenues for cooperation and growth. Secondly, of course, as far as France is concerned, it wants to open up the China market for cornyard, but also growing its manufacturing, particularly in electric vehicles. And that involves, of course, China's dominance in railways. Because China's electric vehicles are threatening a lot of manufacturing industries around Europe. And of course, EV cars is also a major initiative to combat climate change.
So you've touched on this. Yeah, you've touched on this a bit already. So what does this new line mean for the Middle Corridor overall and the Middle Corridor's growing importance for global trade?
Well, there is already a line linking the China market with, for example, Duisburg from Germany, carrying a lot of the Chinese products, components, parts from the EU, Western China, through Europe. And of course, with the growing importance on the Middle Corridor, this particular line is even becoming more important. As the Middle Corridor and also the Central Asian countries. You see, the Central Asian countries are sitting on huge, very rich resources, minerals, materials, even gold and other commodities, but they are all landlocked. And there is no access to the sea apart from other countries like perhaps the Caspian Sea. So I think that this red line is extremely important, linking the landlocked countries and spreading and seeking linking the economies of China and Central Asia together. As a counterweight against the disruptions caused by the Trump administration.
Thank you for your insights and for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.
Now, Kazakhstan has launched a new uranium processing plant with a capacity of 2,000 tonnes per year, strengthening its position as a leading global uranium producer. Our correspondent Fariza Kalamirzana has all the details.
A new uranium processing plant has begun operations in southern Kazakhstan at the Yuzhny Turtkuduk deposit in the Turkestan region. The plant was built by the Kazakh-French joint venture KATCO with a production capacity of 2,000 tons of uranium per year. The project took 3 years and nearly $145 million in investment. The facility will supply uranium both domestically and internationally using advanced technology. KATCO plans to double production to 4,000 tons annually through full integration of its processes. In general, Kazakhstan is a global leader in uranium reserves. 5 of the world's 10 largest deposits are located here, mainly in the southern regions of Kazakhstan. The Minister of Energy reports that Kazakhstan is creating a strategic uranium reserve in the form of unprocessed uranium. The country already produces finished nuclear fuel, and plans to build nuclear power plants will open new opportunities to use domestic resources for energy needs. Discussions about constructing nuclear power plants have been ongoing in Kazakhstan for several years as part of its national energy security strategy. And last month, Russian energy giant Rosatom won the contract to build Kazakhstan's first nuclear power plant and will lead an international consortium on the project. Also, earlier this year, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev announced plans for not 1 but 3 nuclear power plants to support sustainable economic growth for decades to come. Later, it was also revealed that China will lead the construction of Kazakhstan's second nuclear power plant. The initiative gained momentum after President Tokayev's 2019 visit to Moscow, where President Vladimir Putin offered Russian technology for the plant's construction. Later, in October last year, Kazakhstan held a nationwide referendum in which over 70% of voters expressed support for building the country's first nuclear power plant. Fariza Kalamirzana, AnewZ, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Well, that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to AnewZ for more updates and have a wonderful day.